Yeah, good, thanks. Evening Super League fans out there, I'm pleased to say that we are now live. I have my co-commentator just joined me on the line here. Good evening, Stephen, and welcome.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I've literally just started the stream, so hopefully everyone can hear me and Stephen as well. And we're ready to kick off tonight's action. Um, The blog came out today. If we can start with that. How do you feel the blog went this week? Any big talking points? Any feedback missing from people, or any topics you had around that as a resident author?
Oh, hang on, something seems to be going wrong with my feed. I can't see anything.
It should be on its way to you shortly.
There we go. I can see now.
Okay, that's
Um,
good.
no, the blog was fine. There was a couple of admin errors my end. I was trying desperately to get it sorted in various ways, and fell asleep one night trying to finish it late, so it was ready for Saturday morning. And looks like one manager's comments were unfortunately missed. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but on the whole, no, it went all right, and it seemed to it's had good views and a few good comments here and there, and good shares externally away from the league as well. So I'm pleased.
That's great. Well, it was certainly good to read, and obviously nice to see your dedication to the course. Although sleeping on the job, if it's self-inflicted, then fair enough. If it's at the end of the day, it's better than at the beginning of the day. A lot of love for the half scarf's comment. I think he got the position of Kalusny wrong. To be honest, I would have probably gotten that wrong. But either way, I think he really it's a nice addition to the blog as well. So if we can pass on our regards to Colin from Half and Half Scarves, I think it's adding definitely adding value and interest to the blog. So it's great to have him on board as well. Um,
Colin and the boys at Half and Half, they do a quality podcast. It's great entertainment every week, and I'm so glad they've joined us on board. And all the rest of the guys that have had us on doing stuff with them, and they've got on board with us, like Football Easter, who share our team of the week around, and all the
mhm.
guys on the fan portal at Soccer Swap, they're a big support to us as well. So it's good to have them all involved.
Yeah, true, definitely. And just one last word of sponsors before we kick off on the league. We've gone the other way this week, or rather, the chairman has taken it upon himself to sponsor a player from a local team. I can't remember the amount or the name of the player or anything, but I'll give you the details later. And there might be a little kind of like a blog-ish thing going out around that as well. So we'll see what happens. But back to the Super League, back to the action. Um, we're going to try. I mean, I know it failed last week, but I'm going to try and do the order this week. So we're going to start from the bottom. So we're heading off to Sweden first, and we'll see if this works. If you have any hints or tips as to what I'm doing wrong, then please let me know. Um, Andreas is lining up in a. He says it's a new formation, but I've seen so many of these that I can't really remember whether how it's different from the last one. But I mean, Totti's still there, the fullbacks are still there, so I guess it's vaguely familiar. What do you make of his formation and his lineup?
It's a formation I've played before. It's attacking, and it has proven successful for myself at times and other managers. It's more about the personnel and who you can play. I
Hmm.
like his pairing. I like Keane in the holding midfield role. Cafu is a world class player, as we all know. And then it's all depends on, can he get the best out of that front three, which is on paper a phenomenal front three.
Yeah, I mean, he's given Saviola another chance, even though he's not started that well. I don't think he's scored yet. Frank is on the bench tonight. Do you think we might see him coming on if he hasn't added to the 4 goals that he has already?
No, I think that particularly in the Super League, star power is key, and Saviola is one of them players who, if you can get him on a run, he can mimic, if not surpass, what Shevchenko can do at times. So I think he will stick with him for a little bit longer to see if he can get him playing.
Hmm. Well, will certainly be interesting to see what he gets out of it here. Yeah, confidence in Saviola. We'll see how long it lasts, but I'll try to do this one, and then I'll try to go to Mr. Palmer, and we'll see if I can get this to work. Probably not. So this is what everyone's been waiting for. So the Palmer formation, as you can see on screen here, Palmer's gone a little bit. I'm not sure what the word is, but it's certainly different.
He basically, because he managed to completely mug me off last week with ridiculous tactics, he's trying to confuse and bamboozle everyone in the league with the most outrageous thing he can come up with. I mean, if it works, the man's a genius. I'm not going to say it won't work because everyone said what he did last week wouldn't work. It's interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in action.
Yeah, I guess the question is that if he can pick up another 3 points here, then he's kind of threatening the top three, isn't he? I mean, that's a lot. Tim is not a fan. I can, for those who not those who aren't looking at the comments, Tim is not a fan. What happens if he picks up 3 points with this
Then we don't hear the end of it for a week until the next game,
until the
basically.
next game? Yeah.
Uh, to be fair, I think his squad's potentially been undervalued at the start. He has got some good players in there, and this is going to be a real test of his managerial ability because under the old Shadwell, he built a decent looking squad that just kept falling at the final hurdle. When you look at players like Vasilyuk, Nikiforenko, Nedved, you kind of start to think that could they or perhaps should they be making that top six?
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's certainly a strong side up front. It's a good players at the back. At Okoronkwo, I'm not 100% convinced, but he's done okay so far. But well, I guess we'll see what the outcome will be. I will try and press continue and see if it'll actually. It won't take us to the game. Um,
Change player now, it should work.
Change player back to.
So continue all the way through to the end.
It's good to have an expert on hand. Uh-huh. And now change player.
And one more time.
Uh-huh.
Now do it.
All right. Oh my goodness. An expert on hand. Thanks very much. Who is it that has a copy of the game and regularly plays it? Okay. Thanks very much, Stephen. Thank you for for sorting that out for us. We'll get on to the match. And it's Valen at home to Panathinaikos, and we're kicking off the first half.
This could be an interesting one because Valen have proven quite good at home so far this season from memory.
I was going to say I was going to pick this as one for the neutrals, hopefully with some goals in it, but Valen haven't really been at the races goal wise. I mean, they've definitely had the best of the chances in the first half so far. And right, I'm gonna go with my tried and tested.
Come off with this batshit crazy tactic.
I mean, Sand is their top scorer at the moment, so I'm going to leave him on. I'm going to take Vasilyuk off for the keeper and put him in there. And then this one, it has worked with other people before, so Palmer will no doubt question it, but we'll see. We'll see if Paul Robinson can get off to a good start here. No, he couldn't. That's Totti.
That's huge for Totti. He missed his last penalty.
So this could be this could be a tricky time now. This could be a tricky second half. Palmer's asking if he can tell me what to do. I will ask him what he's suggesting. We can have while we have a look at we can have a look at the second half. What maybe is not clear for the chat is that at the moment the YouTube video is really delayed. Maybe like 30-40 seconds or something, so I can't take the instructions on the chat, unfortunately. But we're at halftime now, so if there's any comment, if there's anything to do at halftime, then I'll be happy to do it. But unfortunately, I can't do it on the fly due to the delay that's on there tonight. I apologize for that. With regards to the first half, it's let's say a cheap background, but you think Andreas would be pleased with this?
Yeah, I think from what we saw on the text commentary, they were by far the better side. Obviously, the red card hasn't helped Palmer, but you sensed a goal was coming anyway. It's just, in a way, made their job a little bit easier. But then, as the age-old saying goes, it can be harder playing against 10 as well. So they've gone about it professionally.
Definitely. Couple of assists here. I mean, Cafu getting an assist, Rui Costa getting an assist. So I don't know who went down for the penalty. Maybe it was Oh, that was Rui Costa that was brought down. That's why he's got an assist. But generally quite dominating. I'm gonna quickly suggest that if you want to Trezeguet on while we just look at his team here. I mean, of course they've conceded a goal, but that's terrible. But it's not looking too good at the moment for them with this new formation, even before the sending off. What do you think?
I mean, I'm clearly not in a position to question or criticise other managers right now. But you do think that he has kind of lost the plot with what happened against me last week, and just the ratings when you consider what they have been getting the first couple of weeks and looking at it now. Yes, the red card's going to have had an effect, but it just looks like the players don't have a clue what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's it worked well with the arrows last week when we had the fullbacks running in from the the wing backs running in from the side a little bit. But maybe the crossovers were a step too far for Nedved and Karagounis. I mean, Karagounis is on a 5. He's hardly touched the ball. Nedved's had a little bit more of it, but maybe this is a little bit beyond Karagounis' capabilities.
What I do find interesting is Palmer is up there with the most experienced of us manager wise in terms of length of service to the Super League. And in the comments at half time, 2-0 down, he's already said it's over. He's
Eh.
not as confident as he was last week.
Well, I probably wouldn't be particularly confident if I was in his position again. Again, apologies for the delay. I would have liked to take the instructions as we spoke about early in the season, but the delay is really quite severe on the YouTube side. So we'll kick off the second half and we'll see how they get on. I mean, there is still a chance. Nikiforenko is still there.
Oh, there's
Ard-
always a chance.
Ardsley did it in the first week with 9 men. So, but it doesn't look.
Well, you say that there's quite a lot of
I
black
was
and
gonna
gold.
say, yeah, the chances are definitely going Panathinaikos' way in the second half, but they're not putting them away. I mean, a little bit better towards the end for Valen, but perhaps not as dominant
Tim,
as you could have thought.
Timmy obviously had a really good debut last week, and he kept referring to home teams. I'm
hmm
just wondering if Allen is one of those.
Uh, did I press on? Oh, mail shit. Okay. Well, either way, last minute, we'll take him off anyway. Or is that a thing? Oh, I forgot that we're not allowed to put someone on in the last minute because then he'll get a 6. He'll destroy their average. I can't remember who said that, but I thought it was brilliant. Either way, it stayed 2-0. If we look at the stat, I mean, perhaps not surprising. 14 shots, 8 on target for the Swedes
No,
against 5-1.
it links back to what I said at half time. As we all know, it can be difficult when a team goes down to 10. So I think Valen should be congratulated on what was a professional job. They'll probably be a bit disappointed not to have added to it in the second half, but I was actually fairly impressed with how Panathinaikos went about the second half, considering they were a man line.
Yeah, I mean, you could have easily have seen it gone a lot worse. Again, if we're looking at the performance of the two, I mean, Nedved seemed to be quite okay with the whole kind of running crisscrossy kind of thing. He's probably one of their better players. He got quite a few good pass completion rate, won a few tackles, few key. I mean, he's never going to win a bunch of headers anyway, but he's put in a decent shift here. Um, Karagounis perhaps less so. So do you think the red card will be the the final, if only nail on the coffin on this tactic, or do you think we might see it again?
No, I don't think we'll see it again. I think this will be the realization that what happened last week, it wasn't a fluke because he very much deserved to beat my team. But you can't go about playing crazy tactics against everyone expecting it to come off every week.
True, that's a good point actually. I think I personally experimented a little bit with tactics, and as you mentioned, you can get away with it. He still deserved the win last week, but it's perhaps not the time and place to do it. Um, Roy Keane again in a dominant role here. He had 7 tackles, won all of them. 2 headers, won all of them, and nearly 100% completion. It was only really Totti who I mean he got man of the match, but they've only got 8. Roy Keane has a higher score, the same as Cafu, and they're not getting man of the match. Well, what do you think of that? I mean, we're independent broadcasters, so we can criticize the decision made by the official by the official decisions. What do you think? Does it make sense, Totti, as man of the match?
Um, it's a difficult one because obviously, as you were talking, I spotted the 9s for Cafu and Keane as well. So perhaps it was just the all-round attacking package that Totti offered. Because again, he got man of the match for scoring. Saviola also scored, so clearly Totti did something to impress more than him as well. So
Mm.
team of the week will show whether people think Totti's performance was as good as the game thinks it does.
Yeah, man of the match based on a goal scored on a penalty. I don't see a lot of support for him, but we'll see we'll see what comes up. We'll see what comes up. Let's have a look instead at our next game. Let's have a quick look here. If we look at the fixture list, so we should go from down and upwards. We agreed, or I have decided rather, that we're saving Swindon Devils against Aston Athletic till last. I mean, a bottom versus top
Yeah.
clash with the potential for a huge upset. That's got to be worth waiting for. So we'll jump straight on to Sloths against Churchtown. Mr. Marshall, we'll find his side here. So Sloths have gone with a slightly unusual formation. For some reason, it refuses to recognize it when he asked me to resave it as the Dalek formation, but for some reason the game won't accept it. The name, I'm not sure if it's a Doctor Who dislike. What do you think? He's moved. What are his changes here? He's moved. He's put Carrick on and moved him up to a DMC role, so he's going 2 at the back. And he's keeping the side arrows for Balak and D'Alessandro. How do you think that's going to work out?
Again, it's kind of a more conventional version of what Palmer just did. What I like is, as a new manager, he's clearly looking at what other people are doing. He sees that the 2 at the back is quite popular for the successful teams, so he's trying to do that. And moving Carrick forward just makes the tactic look that bit more attacking, which when you're down there with 0 points and struggling for goals is potentially what you need. Looking at the players he's picked, a lot of people will look at the midfield and question it, I'm sure. But I think last time I was on, I was quite critical of Rivaldo for not turning up, and I think he's going to be key again today if Sloths are going to get anything.
Yeah, he's definitely taken Brosek off because he didn't do much last week, and then Rivaldo's given another chance because he was dropped after your comments in the second week. So we'll see if what he has to offer today. Carrick comes on as well. I mean, he can obviously provide assists or at least balls forward. So it should be they should be in with a shout here. If we look at Kieran's side very shortly. He's gone a little bit more defensive than he was last week, but not super defensive. Still with really strong wing backs. I mean, he's back with Estebaria on the right wing back, which I mean he's an attacker, isn't he? But you've played a forward in a fullback position before as well, so perhaps you can understand his reasoning for this.
Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I kind of feel a little bit for Michael Owen because Van Nistelrooy still seems to get his name on the team sheet despite never achieving anything in the Super League. But I think Etsabaria could be quite dangerous there. And for anyone who's followed me as long as the Super League's been going, they know what a fan of both Ferguson and is that Mackay there. I'm a fan of both of those players and Larson up front as well.
Yeah, and certainly with Coco and Estebaria on the flanks against the kind of narrow formation of Sloths, it could provide them with some opportunities, I think. But we'll see if Van Nistelrooy and Larsen are able to take the chances. How do you see this one going? Do you have any idea? Any last minute prediction?
I mean, obviously, from my own point of view, in terms of where we are and who our closest opposition are, I'm hoping Churchtown get the win here. Um, I think Sloths will put in a decent performance. It wouldn't surprise me if they get a point, but I'm gonna hope towards a Churchtown win.
Right. Well, we'll kick it off, and we'll see how that goes. Um, if I was going to say Churchtown with the early chances here, and it was the fullback as we spoke about before that. But
We saw last week in the Astor game, when you play a narrow tactic, how important width can be.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sloths are getting back in it, to be fair, although without actually scoring. So a fairly bland first half, if we're being honest. Not a huge amount happening. Three shots all on target for Churchtown, but I suppose they were super effective in sorry Timmy, super effective in in the last game against Valen, taking a 1-0 win. We see more of the same for them. They're proving very difficult to break down, aren't they? Two shots and only one on goal.
Yeah, it's an interesting half, and it's one we've seen it with a few teams where in the previous incarnation, a lot of teams were able to blow teams away. Quite a few teams seem to be slightly better defensively this time round, so we are seeing some lower scoring games. It's obviously not been a classic of a half by Super League standards, but I don't think Sloths will think they're out of it, and I don't think Churchtown will think the game's wrapped up yet.
No, I mean that's a fair point. Oliver Kahn has touched the ball once, so not getting much for his they're not getting much for his salary. Still on 100% fitness as well. Maldini with the 6, but again it's because he's almost not touched the ball. That's got to be a little bit of a concern for Sloths that they're making the two central defenders out of for Churchtown work so little actually. Not that Henrik Larsson's has really impressed, but or Van Nistelrooy for that matter, but I would be slightly concerned perhaps. If we look at the Sloth squad, maybe we can see the reason for it. It seems as if the strikers are getting the ball. I mean, Vieri, Crespo, Rivaldo, they're getting the ball, but I'm not sure what they're doing with it.
Trying to get in the mindset of some of the other managers that I know will be watching. I think both Thiago and Tim will be screaming at how poorly Crespo is playing, because they will be saying we could get so much more out of him if he was in our team.
Mm. And again, it seems as if they are just getting nowhere near each other's penalty boxes. I mean, you can see Burns and Risp, they're the two central defenders. They've got like 10 touches or whatever each as well. It's quite strange actually to see that the two central defenders for both sides have had literally nothing to do. But I mean, Buffon has had a few touches, but maybe they're passing the ball to him. I don't know. Action wise, not very much. Mostly in the Sloths half, or in the middle in the Sloths half.
Yeah, it's being played in the midfield. Both teams struggling to break each other down explains the lack of chances.
Well, we'll see if fatigue or anything sets in the second half, so maybe we can get a bit more of a bit more of action going on. But I think Churchtown will be. I mean, look at that record; they've conceded 1 goal so far in the first 3 games, so they'll probably be happy with this. But we'll see what the second half brings, if Sloths can get back in it. Well, there's definitely early concerns here. I mean, they've got Belletti. It's a like for like, I think, with Davids.
That's a Davids is such a good player.
Mm-hmm. And he can do both, so we'll swap them over. I think Belletti's better on the right side, so we'll see if that has an impact. I mean, it could be, like you say, he's a very good player and probably instrumental to their defensive success.
Oh, was that a penalty?
It wasn't given, but Mackay definitely scored.
Sloth's not playing to the whistle, possibly there.
Possibly not, and conceding regularly in the second half. It doesn't look as if they were really in it in the second half, to be honest.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't even see the third one go in.
Van Nistelrooy, who had a couple of bad words from you before the game started, but he's proven that that perhaps he deserves that place ahead of Owen. Much better from Churchtown in the second half, and identical from Sloths in the second half. That's the Rob can't be happy with that, can he?
No, he won't be happy. I think what's happened there is we were saying it was a midfield battle, and clearly the attacking threat from Churchtown, they started up in the ante a little bit. Perhaps they coasted through the first half, and then they sort of put on a show in the second half just to emphasise that they're that bit more confident, that more in tune with what they need to be doing, and looking towards that top six.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it's another week without goals for Sloths with and Crespo getting a 5, the area 6. They saw plenty of the ball again, but did nothing with it. Maybe some instructions or something that aren't exactly what they should be, because it can't all be down to Churchtown's defense, can it?
I think it's a mix of both. We picked up on how good Churchtown's defence has been early doors, and Sloths obviously haven't been the best. Still on 0 points, still lacking in goals. So yeah, he does need to look at the both team and player instructions just to see if there's something not quite going correctly for how they're lining up tactically.
Yeah, I mean, Rivaldo kind of okay. Carrick seemed to do. I mean, he certainly thrived. He came in for an 8. Risp in defense. Burns defensively. I mean, I was going to say they were doing okay, but they're not when they concede 3 goals. It's difficult to say. Maybe a 2 or 3 at the back isn't the right thing. Maybe it's back to a 4 at the back and start from scratch. But we'll see what Rob comes up with. I'm sure that he'll take something away from this and learn from it. I mean, I lost a bunch of games myself as lost manager and did improve slightly. Whether it was dumb luck, I don't know. But I certainly managed to pick up a couple of wins. But so it's a tough start for them. Churchtown, on the other hand, they are. I mean, they're doing very well, exceptionally well actually.
Kieran will be absolutely delighted with their start to the season. You were saying in the previous game about Palmer for Nikos making that sort of push towards the top two. Um, Churchtown are the sort of team that I'd be looking at the way they've started the season and saying they're the ones that are going to chase them for as long as the likes of Chudley and Astor can maintain their good early season form. It'll be Churchtown that leads the charge after them.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a look around the 58th minute, and there was some kind of was maybe a penalty incident or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what here. Van Bronckhorst had his foot held up high and caught Larson with it. Oh, the referee turned down the claims for a penalty. That's perhaps a bit harsh. We had this with who was it that should have had a penalty or a red card or something last week? There was a headbutt, wasn't there? Was it Bolton that headbutted one of the Chotley player? I think that was last week. Radoy, is that his name? I think it was that headbutted someone.
I'll tell you what's happened here. The very first week, there was a bunch of red cards,
Hmm.
and the authorities clearly said, you've got to stop this. So now the players are literally having to be murdered to get a red card because this is outrageous. Like you say, there was the headbutt last week, which in any other game would be a red. And now you've got, did you say it was Van Bronckhorst volleying Larson in the head? And
Possibly. I mean, it doesn't say how high his foot was, but it says had his foot held up high and caught Larson with it. Should have perhaps been a penalty. I think there was Placente didn't get sent off for doing exactly the same as someone else in a Hooligans game, and there's been a few issues. I don't know if it was Wayne Oldham. No, it was Boyd McGregor. So we're not seeing Wayne Oldham in action this one. Either way, Churchtown ran away with this one in the second half. They had by far the most of the ball. It was hardly in their area. Uh,
think,
Sloth
I
needs
think
to do
that
something.
going back to that incident that wasn't as the referee saw it, I think the game's having a bit of a comedy with us there because what they've done is gone a bit old firm and got the Rangers player to absolutely leather the Celtic player, and the referee just didn't see it.
That's a good point actually. If that is built into the game engine, I will be impressed. Either way, Kieran would be delighted with this. 3 points, 3 goals, another clean sheet for him. It's really looking good for his push for the top 6. I know it's early doors, but still he should be happy with this. Moving, I was going to say swiftly, it isn't really, but moving on anyway. I think we head to Scotland next to see what Mr. Campbell's been up to, and he has been up to not a lot. He's taken off Kewell for Van der Vaart and put Van der Vaart back in the midfield. I think that his that this thing should go all the way up. I can't remember. I think for some reason there's something with the save that it hasn't saved the last changes, which is not ideal. We'll leave it on, and he can we'll see if he can confirm or complain about it in the comments. What do you think about Midlothian? They've gone off to a really good start. They've got 2 wins so far, both at home, but still, I mean, he's got to be happy with 6 points.
Yeah, they've definitely been the surprise package. I think last time I was on, they got their first win, and I said they wouldn't stand a chance in the game. They backed that up last week with another win, which again came as something of a surprise. But you can't argue. You know, he's doing things that others wouldn't do. I'm still looking at Addo on the left wing back and thinking, what is going on? But you can't argue with the success he's having with it.
Yeah, and he praised him was it in the blog? I think he praised him. He praised him for his performance in those 2 games, 2-8s, I think, and he's done really well. So we'll see. He is up against a Dragon Destroyer side who perhaps didn't have the best of games last time out. Let's have a quick look here. He was, I don't know, unlucky. They didn't really create much against Hooligans, did they? I mean, in that 1-0 defeat. How do you see the start of Dragon season so far? I mean, they've not conceded a bunch of goals, but they've also only scored 3, I think, and just got the 1 win so far.
This game's massive for Dragons, even at this early stage, I think. Obviously, last time I was on, I slated Robbie Keane. He went and got a second half hat trick. But they really need to build some form. Jamie was unfortunate when it was monos that they could never really build on anything, and he'll be desperate to hope that it's not the same, because then he'll start doubting himself, which would be a shame, because once you start doubting yourself, that's when you start doing perhaps crazy things, and that makes it worse, and then that's when people start to lose momentum and then ultimately resign. So I do hope that he turns it around. I'm going to say this will be a score draw. I'm intrigued by his tactics here with the 2 wingers and the 3 DMs, and to see if Robbie Keane turns up again, because I'm watching.
Well, it could very well be the case. As mentioned previously, there seems to be a little bit of a problem with the actual save here. Just a couple of things that I noticed, like the failure to save Rob's tactic name and the missing arrow on the Midlothian player. If there are any tactical like changes that you've submitted that aren't here that I don't notice, then I have to take full responsibility and just apologize in advance. So I'm sorry about that. We're still learning. We're only week 4, but let's kick off this encounter between the Scots and the Welsh folk and see who gets the better of this British derby.
I'm not sure if it's what he had before, but I did notice that Van der Meyde was on the right wing, which I quite liked. I thought that gives him good balance, having a natural winger.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see the results of that. He still needs to get something out of his 2 central strikers, though, doesn't he? Really, the Dragons. Oh, that was Impensa with a good goal there. Coming up to the second half. Oh, sorry, the end of the half. Couple of good chances for the Dragons, but well, I say a couple. That was literally 2. How did you see that
You
first half?
you made the point halfway through then about Jamie needing something out of his central strikers, and this is what Midlothian have got in Mpenza. You could play the batshit formation that Palmer was playing, and Mpenza will still score. It's outrageous how good his conversion rate is in any save.
And we can't say the same for Montella and Viduka. I mean, they haven't even had a shot in this game. To be fair, that's not what you want really from your 2 strikers. Is it a supply problem? Is it too big a gap between the 3 at the back, and then there's just Robbie Keane, and then the 2 up top? Is that where he's lacking? Do you think? Is it this kind of big space here that no one is really in? That maybe he's where he's struggling?
Possibly, although when you consider where the arrows are compared to their starting positions and who these players are, there's still plenty of potential there for either crosses from the wingers or through balls from the defensive midfielders as much as Robbie Keane. So I'm more thinking, is it more of a player stroke team instruction than a tactical issue, because the players there are suited to that formation, and they're just not quite fulfilling their jobs the way Jamie would think they would.
Yeah, I mean, we could maybe That's 3 games now, Montella and Viduka. I mean, 3.5 games, Montella and Viduka, and we've not seen a lot for them. They do have Cisa on the bench. Maybe that's something that they should perhaps consider. Let's have a look at Midlothian, how they fare. Van der Vaart with a 7 seems to have done okay in coming on for Kuhl, who's on the bench today. Klompe is the standout performer for some reason, maybe from his defensive performances with a 9 so far. And Pensa scored the goal, did what he had to do. Do you see any way that Dragons can get back in this? If Klump and Montero keep up dominating at the back, it's going to be tricky for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be very tricky. But what we know about the players in the Dragons team is they are all capable of scoring the goal. So I wouldn't rule them off yet. What interests me is Shay Given, who's been very, very unfortunate not to make any team of the week so far. He's playing relatively well again. So as good as the centre backs have been, I think Given is tough to get past at the moment. So it's going to be a real tough second half for Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, outrageous that he didn't get. I mean, fair enough that other people who vote, but man, he kept the clean sheet against 8 shots from BTEC and he didn't get. So, but either way, we'll see. Maybe he'll have to put up like a stellar performance in the second half here, and he can get an award. But of course, if he only faces 1 shot, then it's difficult, isn't it? But we'll see what the
That
second half will bring.
that was literally the closest ever vote I can remember for Team of the Week, where the player that got it was 1 vote ahead of second, who was 1 vote ahead of third.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they all probably deserved it equally for their performances. They've had a couple of chances in the second half, the Dragons, but still not been able to score. This is going to be a problem, I think, in
I
general.
because they're losing, I'd be tempted by Cisse, but then that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I do like for like, so he's attacking midfielder, right center. I mean, I could put Cisse, but we'll see what if anything happens in the. No, nothing was going to happen in the last couple of minutes anyway. Let's hope that's not too serious for Keane, because they were already not hugely well covered in that AMC role, and this has not helped with Keane being
No,
out.
and unfortunately, looking at them stats as well, it backs up what I was about to say. I can see that I'm being absolutely slated for sounding miserable on commentary, which is a bit harsh. But there's much going on to talk about. It's
Yeah.
been a lackluster evening so far. There's none of these 7-4s that Tim got, or 5-4s, or nothing like that. I'm
Yeah.
getting 1-0 wins.
True. Maybe we're saving it all for the last game of the evening. Who knows? But we've got Hornets coming up, guaranteed goals. Bolton, Arsenal. There's a few of them with goals in. But back to this game. I mean, much better half. That's what you do for the Dragons. You help them to have a better second half when you're on, Steven. That's it. Much better performance from them in the second half. In the end, equaled Midlothian and were perhaps unfortunate not to equalize.
Yeah, it purely goes back to what you said right at the very beginning. Midlothian have that striker in Mpenza that scores the goals. Dragons are not getting what they need from Viduka and Keane and company. So I think he needs to look at that. What he does, obviously, again, I don't want to comment too much because I'm not doing great myself, but there's clearly something affecting. Is it the supply? I mean, they created 8 chances away from home, or is it just that they're not scoring? And maybe you're right, freshen it up a bit, put someone else up there to give them a chance, see if they can get the goals.
I mean, with this formation, I, I can only read what's on the screen. Yeah, I can only read that Mark Viduka has tried 7 headers and lost almost all of them. Montella's hardly had the ball. He made 15 passes. That's it. He has no assists. He has no shots. He has nothing. He has lost a header. That's it. There's something in the instructions for the players or something that is not working, because I mean Midlothian are a decent side, but they're not that good. I mean, they're not good enough that Viduka and Montella for a full game doesn't have a single shot, either of them, and they were also not shooting last week. So I think there's something in the instructions there, maybe that needs to be had a look at, to be completely honest. Um, but we'll see what Jamie comes back with next week. I would be disappointed with the performance from my strikers if I was him. I would have expected something from this game with the amount of chances that were created in the second half.
Yeah, and I mean it's not stellar ratings, but when you see Giggs and Van der Meijden getting sevens, which is obviously above average, then they're clearly doing their bit. They're getting the ball into the areas. They're just not Viduka and Montella are just not putting the ball in the net for them.
Yeah, I mean they're not even getting to the ball. But let's see. I mean Klump and Montero, obviously both of them got eights, so that's obviously part of the reason that Klump completely dominated in the air. So that's Viduka out of the picture there. Neil Scally with a six. I have no idea who this person is, but he's not done particularly well. Steven Gerrard also with a six. They were the only two kind of like not brilliant performances. Everyone else seems to have done rather well.
Yeah, Neil Scally's a bit of he's one of them champ heroes that a lot of players, particularly when they play start in the lower leagues, it's one of them cheap buys that they always get because you know what you're going to get from him. Interesting that Gerrard didn't play well. What position did he start in again? Did he start out wide or was he a defensive midfield position?
He plays opposite to Ado, I think, doesn't he? I think so. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. So
uh,
really, someone of his passing ability should be doing better out wide.
mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd absolutely expect that, but in the end, that wasn't what happened, and I accidentally clicked continue. So so it'll remain a mystery until next week. But definitely, yeah, you would have expected better from him. But he was up against, if he's playing on the right, he was up against Giggs, who were probably the best player for Dragons. So maybe that's also impacted his performance. But either way, I think Ian will be happy with that. 1-0 clean sheet. Perhaps not the best performance in the second half, but you can only be happy when you take 3 points, as Timmy so regularly points out to us, doesn't he? So I think he'll take that, and was that his third home game, and he has 3 wins.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, there's a couple of things you want to do. You want to make your home a fortress, which is what he's doing, and a win is a win at the end of the day. He's now got 9 points from 4 games, which, depending on the way a couple of the other games go, I think makes him the highest scoring of the new managers, which is an incredible effort for a team that wasn't fancied at all.
Yeah, I mean he's got what five nothing goals scored, 2 goals against, and 9 points from 3 home games. So uh, yeah, I think most people would take that to be completely honest. So a good game for Midlothian, not so much for the Dragons, but on that second half performance, it's definitely get those two players scoring and you'll be winning games. I'm not sure what the problem is, but we'll leave that for Jamie to fix. I'm sure he will be able to. He's gotten results before, so I'm sure he'll be able to do that again. We will move on to Hooligans, who have had a bit of an up and down season. I think it's fair to say so far.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you can't please anybody is what we've established. I'm sure you've realized that in your privileged position you can't please anybody. I mean, I get slated for never changing my tactic, then I get slated for constantly changing my tactic. Tiago's got a tactic that clearly works for him. um, it's not got the best track record in Super League history, but he sticks by his guns, and I respect that. But he gets slated. Even when he's winning games, he gets slated for not changing his tactic.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I won't say a word about his tactic. I think he obviously got a good result last week. He beat Dragons away, perhaps not the most exciting game that we've seen, but he got a good result, and I'm a big fan of his attacking players. He's got Beckham. I'm not a fan, but I appreciate he plays okay in the game. He's got Aima, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Anelka. On the bench, he's got Defoe, Salas, and Recoba. So he's got 3 strikers that could probably get a game for most other teams. I mean, maybe not in season 1, but certainly later on. What's he doing with them? And Elba on the bench, of course. Is he planning to trade them in the in the window, or what's he doing with all these strikers? Do you think?
I think that he could be on for at least one big deal. Like you say, there is a lot of good attacking talent there that isn't getting a game. And the one thing, not just me, but a lot of people have said, is he does lack that sort of bit of class in defence. Not even so much the holding midfield roles, but the back three. You look at it and it's okay, I do rate Samuel, but the other two, they're not the greatest in the game. So I do think that there could be a big striker for defender deal going on in the transfer window.
That's certainly a possibility. He's got enough chips to bargain with. That's for sure. Um, Up against him, we have. Let's see if we can find him, Mr. Hodgson. Um, he goes full Christmas tree this week, or something like that. Anyway, um, Tristan on top, Lopez, Seedorf. Um, he says it's a little bit more defensive. I think Seedorf played the central midfield last week. He's moved him a little bit forward and put Donati in there instead, to try and I don't know what he's trying to do, combat the Hool's threat maybe. Um, Surprising or not? I mean, he is away from home, so perhaps it's not surprising that he's got a little bit more of a defensive mindset.
I think on paper it's got good balance to it. I like the look of it. Seedorf is a good player, particularly attacking. I'm a fan of minimum two up front. I don't tend to play a single striker, but you know it works for different people. And Tristan's had a decent start to the season. I actually think this could be a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, he got 2 goals last week. I mean, hopefully there's going to be goals for both sides in this one. So we'll see what we'll do here. Is it wide enough with Candela and Sowery? I mean, we talked about wide formations. We saw Craig and Hoddeston's success, not success. That's maybe the wrong word, but the amount of goals they scored against the narrow formation. Is this wide enough? Or do you think that he should have put longer arrows on, or will it be enough for them to pose a challenge to hooligans?
I think that there's a chance there for extra width. I think it depends on what he's asking Lopez and Seedorf to do, whether they have to stay in or they can move out. I mean, they haven't got the arrows to go wide,
Hmm.
but be their individual instructions. Yes, it could be more attacking, and yes, he could have more width with that formation. But as you've said, he is away from home, um, possibly looking to combat. So I think, like you're right, this is a both teams to score game,
Okay.
um, and I'm going to call it as a score draw. I think.
That's we'll see. I'll go for that. I'll take a 3-3 all day long, to be honest. So an early goal would be great, and there it is from Ronaldo. So we can't complain about the start. That's for sure. Um, Seen a lot of who. Oh, and there's a penalty. No red card for the keeper though, surprisingly.
Um, no, I mean, I'll be honest because this hasn't happened for a while. I think you were saying about the delay on the YouTube. I think I'm actually getting a bit of a delay as well because you saw the penalty before I did.
Oh, right, okay.
But I've just gone 3-0 to hooligans, and they are looking very, very good.
All right, it might be like a half a second or something delay. Then I'll try to contain my excitement. Then hooligans completely dominating the first half. I think would be fair to say. 6 shots, all on target.
Um, yeah, it's been a superb half, probably their best half of football in a long, long, long time. Be interesting to see if people are still slating his tactics. Is it when you consider how they've played the first few games? Is it that Ardsley haven't set up to combat them properly, or are they just playing that well?
Yeah, I mean, I was worried that maybe they didn't have enough width, but maybe they've got too much width. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, to be fair, they also have the defensive worries to contend with. I mean, Lausen is out. I know that there are people being negative about Lausen. I think somewhere last week, maybe I don't know, but I think he would have done a better job than Coufret with his 7 touches and his 5. Um, Candela with a 7. Donati in that central midfield role does not work. Yeah, with a 5, it looks like as if he's been left he's probably been left on his own there in the middle. Milevski and I don't know what to say. It's poor.
It tells everything about how much hooligans are dominating this game that Vieira's getting a 6. Even when his team loses, he gets a minimum 7.
Mm, I would agree. They've hardly touched the ball, to be honest. I'm not sure what's really gone on here. If we have a look at the match report, who committed the Mendieta was knocked by the floor by Donati. Okay, Donati's having a shocker. which is a shame. IMR with a simple finish. Yeah, I mean they've literally just dominated. If you look in the action zones, it's been mostly in midfield, but the only breakthroughs have really comes from hooligans. So they've done quite well.
So what we're saying there, there's a couple of things I picked up on. The penalty incident, he got knocked over. Let's just remember that Larson got volleyed and got nothing, got knocked over and got a penalty. And yes, you're right, all the action is in the midfield. And that's why we're seeing such bad ratings for the Ardsley players and good for hooligans, because they are absolutely dominating. If I think back to game week 2 and when we lost to the Cannons, they absolutely battered us in midfield. And this is a result of what that victory in midfield can do, because you just create so much more. And if your strikers or your attacking players are in form, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah. So if we're looking at it here, I mean, they're obviously having the best of the possession, the best of the ratings, slightly less possession for Ardsley, and certainly worse ratings. So it seems as if there's a midfield battle that hooligans are running away with here. I do have an instruction that if Tristan has a 6 or below, then Hussein gets a game. So we'll see how Dario Hussein gets it. Do you think he'll be enough to turn it around? Personally, I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in the second half. It's more of the same, isn't it?
Oh, it's a penalty. This is their chance. If there's ever get back in it, if he scores this, then they've got half an hour against 10 men.
Right, I am going to do my standard trick here. Yeah, this could be a game changer, literally a game changer. Now they haven't got Tristan on, so I'm not sure who takes the penalty. That was Seedorf, and he missed.
Oh, dear me.
He makes up for it now. He makes up for it now. Maybe they can still get back in there. Maybe they can. Maybe there's still a chance. I mean, they're not really dominating, I don't think.
No, it looks like hooligans are still winning it in the midfield.
I mean, that hasn't changed, to be honest. Yeah, and there's the final whistle. I mean, they were still far too strong in the midfield. Andreas points out in the comments, and Elka loves being subbed. Yeah, but he was getting an 8. He was getting a lower rating than Ronaldo, so he's just gonna have to suck it up. So hooligans hold on for the win. Let's see the stats for the second half. Much better for Ardsley, as you'd expect. They're a man up, but still not really enough.
I think there was a few chances in there. I think Seedorf, obviously, he missed the penalty. I think there was another chance late on. I think Ardsley will be slightly disappointed they didn't come away with a point, but then after their first half performance, they can't have expected to really earn anything. I think Thiago will be delighted overall with the win, with the manhood first half performance. And yeah, I think there's something to take away from it for both teams, but Thiago will be delighted.
And is it a blessing in disguise that Kyotis got sent off? Because I'm no expert, but Stefan Klose is a better keeper, isn't he?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. No.
Controversial. Shows what I know. Either way, I would pick. I mean, just as the game itself, the numbers are auto allocated, so the game rates close over Kyotis. But either way, if we look at the stats for the rest of the players, 8s and 9s across the board. Mendieta and Beckham with a 7. Everyone else doing quite well. Ronaldinho not the best, perhaps. Aymar with an assist. Mendieta with an assist. I mean, apart from Ronaldinho not really firing, he's got to be happy with this, hasn't he? As you mentioned. And if you look at the Ardsley side, better second half, but not really what he would have hoped for.
Hussein getting a 7's interesting. Shows that perhaps Tristan either wasn't getting the service or wasn't performing very well before he came off. But yeah, you're looking at it. I mean, there is a 9 in there for
Vieira turned up in the second half.
They did become more dominant in the second half. But yeah, based on the first half performance, they can't have expected anything out of it at all.
Yeah, and as it was pointed out in the comments as well, 14 tackles for Vieira. that's not bad. That's not bad going. That is dominating the second half. So he must have given them some team talk anyway for a couple of the guys. Donati with a 5. I expect that's the end of that experiment with Donati by himself in an MC role.
Yeah, it's one of them things sometimes you try something different, and if it works, you're a genius, and if it doesn't, you're made to look like a fool. Donati's a player with a good track record in the Super League. I don't think it's the last we'll see of him, but I don't think it'll perhaps be in this system again.
No, I think that's a fair point. So Hooligans, they go to 7 points now, 7 points after 4 games, and after that initial 6-1 defeat in the first game, they've got to be happy with how the season has started to turn around, I think. Next up this evening is Hoddesdon against Bolton Phoenix. I'm a little bit nervous about this Bolton setup, but we'll see what the tactics look like. If not, then Ryan can be unhappy and take great pride in the money I gave him for running a marathon. But there does seem to be a bit of a tactical issue, and I think he was the last one I changed. If we have a look at Hoddesdon's tactics first, this looks familiar, doesn't it? From Hoddesdon.
Yeah, he's gone back to old reliable. I'm presuming before anyone says anything that it's been checked for any anti-rules sort of manoeuvres.
Yeah, I
But
mean there aren't any suspicious circles. We'll get our in-house investigator Ryan Aldred on the case for sure. But there aren't any fat circles. I checked with Craig, and it's driven by circumstances, driven by injuries. Basically, he doesn't have the wide attacking players to keep up that the formation that he went with before. So that's why he's had to go back to something, because I think he initially set up his team to have a ton of central defensive midfielders, central midfielders, AMCs, etc. Because he perhaps was going to run with this formation. This is a formation he's designed his squad around. So and he also wanted to have Batistuta and Sigalko in at the top, I think, because I think he was. That was pointed out last week, certainly, that it's a shame to leave Sigalko on the bench, basically.
what he has done, I think, to combat what he wasn't allowed to do after game one, is he's made the fullbacks very, very attacking with their arrows compared to what the standard setup is. And he's also DMC pushing forward. So it'll be interesting to see if that leaves holes at the back or not.
Yeah, because he's not been the best at not conceding goals so far. I think, I mean, there's been worse. By Hooligans getting those 6 in the first game has impacted it, but I think Hoddesdon, I think it's 8 goals they've conceded in the first 3. So not perhaps not the best, but we'll see how they get on against Bolton. But definitely, Dhoni's out for a while.
I'm not one to talk about solid defences with.
No, oh no, 12. Someone has conceded 12 goals in the league. That's right. I forgot about that. My apologies. He is up against Bolton Phoenix, as we said, and this is going to be. I think this is correct. I think this is the new Phoenix 3-2. I think this is the correct formation. Yeah, because Raul is back. Okay, so we have it. So, okay, panic over. But he's put Neville and Shearer in. That was the two things that stood out to me. Gary Neville, did we not already have the discussion about Gary Neville? He's got Boomsong, Abel Savia, and Igor Tudor that can all play that DMRC role or DMR role, and he goes with Gary Neville. Is that okay?
It's not really how I would play him, but obviously he is a fullback by trade. Possibly Zambrotta would be better accustomed to playing there. After what we just saw in the last game, interesting to see how this sort of tree pans out. But Veron is obviously a much better technical player to do that position. Very attacking with the arrows as well, so interesting to see how it pans out.
So we could have this could be our goal. This could be the goal fest we've been waiting for. I mean, 4 goals in the last. Let's not be unfair. There was 4 goals in the last game, but this could be a cracker. This could be the one for the neutrals, I think. We'll see how it goes. I've jinxed it now, I know, but let's see. Let's kick it off and see how it goes. Sorry, forgot your prediction, please, Mr. Fyfe.
Just goals, a lot of goals.
Plenty of goals.
I'm not sure which way, but a lot of goals.
Right, we'll see. Well, Kale puts the ball in the 6-yard box after 1 minute, so we'll see how it pans out if we get an early one. Raul with a header, Shearer with a follow up, but nothing. Um, Shearer again. He's obviously trying to get back in the team. They haven't. Oh, there's a goal there. Ljungberg. Oh, interesting.
It's very end-to-end stuff, this, to be fair. There's another one.
There's another one
I
for
was going
Shearer there.
to I was going to point out that Shearer's been put back in and Henri's been dropped again. He can't seem to settle on a striker.
Yeah, I was going to say I think it's different strikers every week. Um, but I mean, if Shearer's scoring, then that's obviously good for them. If they can then settle on one guy, we'll see if he changes him again. He took Fowler. Did he not take Fowler off after Fowler scored, or is that a different
No,
scenario I'm
no, that's
thinking
right.
of? Yeah, I mean there wasn't goals, but there certainly was 2 goals and plenty of chances. I think for both sides. If you look at the stats, oh, definitely. I mean, we've definitely had the action in this game that we were perhaps lacking in some of the other first halves. What do you make of that for Phoenix? That's a good start for them.
It's an incredible performance from an away team anyway, but when you consider who they're against, they'll be very, very pleased with that.
I think so too. And Hoddesdon, I mean, under normal circumstances, you wouldn't complain about having 5 shots, all 5 on target, and a goal after the first half. But looking at the performances from the defensive players, that's sixes all the way. That's perhaps not what they would have wanted.
No, they're clearly being run all over when Bolton are attacking, and that's where their issues are, because their attacking players aren't doing too badly. They're
Hmm.
probably just not getting the level of possession and attacking intent that they're used to.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't look like it. Amoroso, you said could be interesting. It has been in the fact that it's been kind of awful, and I'm under instructions to take him off if it doesn't work. So I'll do that. Um, if we look at Bolton, to be fair, it hasn't been much better stats wise or performance wise so far. I mean, Shearer with an 8, a bunch of chances for the attacking players here. I mean, 2 or 3 shots from all of the front four. That's been quite impressive for them.
Yeah, and this is the reason why their stats are so good. They're probably disappointed they're not winning. You look at, we obviously picked out a few of the players in the last game. You see Veron there getting his 7, proving that he is doing a decent job on his own in the middle as well. You would imagine Hoddesdon are going to come back out second half and go for it. Again, I predicted goals at the start. I think the second half could be really good viewing.
Well, the action again. It's been a midfield battle, but perhaps with less of a clearer winner than we saw in the last game. But let's see what happens in the second half. I mean, a red card or an early goal could definitely turn it round for either of the sides and give them that morale boost they need to take it to the line. But let's kick it off and see how we go in the second half. I mean, Dunn involved early on. Probably good to get him involved in that midfield battle.
Scholes and Veron, they're almost going toe to toe with who's going to assist.
And in the end, it's an unlikely source of the second goal from the left back
That's all those
position.
extreme attacking lines I was talking about.
Oh well, and there's what's going to happen with Shearer next week. his mind has been made up for him. There, we'll put Henri on and see if he can do anything in the last 4 minutes. Nope, he couldn't. We didn't get that many goals. We got a bit of an unlikely hero here in Babayaro. Let's see. I mean, they didn't do much more in the second half, Hoddesdon, but I still feel they perhaps had the better of it compared to the first half.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that. Bolton did still create more, so it's just they weren't clinical enough, which I think he said before, and this is why he rotates his strikers. He'll be very disappointed he's not at least got a point out of that. To be fair,
Yeah, I mean, with 8 shots on target, I mean that's and only getting 1 goal for it. That's almost BTEC conversion rate there with with that performance. Again, plenty of shots from his attacking players, but not really converting. It's basically just more of the same, isn't it? I mean, Gary never got an 8, so I should be quiet. But either way, the strikers have not they've not done enough, have they?
no, and this is what I mean. I said before that I prefer two up top, and I think myself and a few other people have said that Figo never does it at Super League. I mean, he's got a 7 tonight, to be fair, but that's maybe something I'd be personally looking to change. But yeah, it's just a disappointing night for Phoenix all round that they haven't got at least a point from what was a fairly decent performance.
Yeah, and if we look at the Hornets side, Ljungberg, who I persisted with as Sloth's manager and wasn't impressed with, gets man of the match here. And Batistuta, I mean, he said he was going to make room for Tsigalko. In the end, Tsigalko does not nothing, but not a lot.
No, Youngberg's the sort of player. The first couple of seasons, he does relatively well. He's not a standout player by any stretch of imagination, but he has it in his locker. That you look at the defensive ratings, and they're all getting 8s with the exception of 1-7 there. That's where they've won the game. That as a unit, they've done very well to keep out a very attack-minded Bolton team there.
And definitely good work on we mentioned in the pre-match with the long arrows on the fullbacks. That's really worked a treat, hasn't it? Sanyol getting an assist and Babayaro getting the winner. Just got to be happy with how that's worked out.
Oh yeah, as we said, when you do something that little bit different, you're either a genius or a fool, and it's worked for him. So he'll be absolutely delighted, and obviously that's what he's done to counteract the stuff that he wasn't able to do with the tactics, and it's worked a treat for him.
Yeah, and obviously secretly probably delighted that he's gotten a tune out of his 4-1-3-2 formation again. Even though I'm sure he's mentioned on several occasions that he was happy to be in love with the game again and trying out new formations, etc. I think maybe a win with a 4-1-3-2 is also going to sit quite nicely with him, to be honest. So well deserved. Well, maybe that's a strong word. Based on the performance of the individual players, I would say preferred deserved the win. But when you look at the chances Bolton created, they probably should have had a draw, maybe 2-2.
Um, a victory based on a good defensive display, I think it'd be fair to say.
Yeah. Let's see what we've got coming up next then. 2 games left this evening. First up, we've got BTEC Troopers. What can we say that haven't been said already? Will Inzaghi or Pizarro score tonight, do you think? That's the big question.
I've watched BTEC obviously every game this season, and if anyone's watched Man United, as in real life, in how they've to an extent dominated games and look like they're creating chances, but then ultimately looked rubbish because they don't get any points, especially after the game today against Newcastle. That's what BTEC remind me of. They look like they're dominating, they're creating plenty, but they're not scoring the goals and getting the points that they deserve.
So Rashford's like a modern day BTEC Inzaghi kind of thing.
Rashford would be the perfect player for BTEC because he'd get in all sorts of positions and not do anything.
Right, he's a good fit then. They've lost 2 of the away games, BTEC, but they did get a win at home. We spoke about this briefly, or you certainly did earlier in the show tonight, about maybe we're not seeing as many of these like kind of huge wins and things like that. Is the gap really shortening between the sides now? Is that why it's so difficult as well? Is that why it stands out when a side like BTEC, when you say, oh, they've really got a good squad, etc., they should really get some more points on the board? Is the gap that narrow that there's no like guaranteed victories, or I don't want to say there's no easy games, but is that the case? Is that how the Super League has developed? That just because you're handed, Christian Chivu and Ashley Cole on your left back, then that doesn't mean you're going to win anything. Palermo, Inzaghi, Pizarro.
I don't think it's necessarily that the gap is shortening. I mean, pound for pound, the squads are a lot closer than they were previously. But when you see certain teams like the Cannons, who we'll be looking at the minute, they've got maximum points, and they've got that for a reason. BTEC, what happened last year was it was almost a fairy tale with them getting off the bottom, almost. So he's proven that he knows what he's doing. It's just, can he make that step up now that he's gone from being a side that are supposed to finish bottom to a team that are supposed to finish in the top 6, if not the top 2, which is what I think I said at the start. And can he handle that pressure? And at the moment, whether it's him or the players, they're not doing that yet.
Well, it'll certainly not be particularly easy for him tonight against a Chudley Cannon side who haven't really put a foot wrong, to be fair, in the first few games here. I mean, they've won all of them by a single goal, but as we spoke about before, that doesn't really matter. If you take like Midlothian, they take 9 points from home. That's fine. Chudley have 9 points in total. They're probably also happy with that. This looks as if Timmy's gone back to the original Timmy formation with two at the back, three in front of them, and then three across the middle. Kutuzov and Rossini up front. The only thing I've noted down here is that obviously Mark Kerr's injured. Gallardo takes his place. Gallardo as a central midfielder, will he do better than Donati did for in the previous games for Ardsley?
I'm going to say yes, and that's because everything Tim touches turns to gold. I mean, I've said multiple times this evening, I like to have at least two up top. He's playing one, and you can tell, you just go into it thinking it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't surprise me. I believe, looking at it, this is a formation that he plays a lot and he loves it, and I believe he will probably win again tonight using it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in this encounter. Medina is getting a squad number. BTEC at home, will it make a difference, or will Chudley continue? I think this will be their third away game, so it could be the third away win. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Danielson getting the that's
Oh, that's a game changer early doors.
yeah. I'm not sure what he does here. Does he take Mendes off Gallardo?
If you sort of talk for 20 seconds, Tim will see it because he's on chat and he'll tell you what he
Yeah,
wants
and
to
then
do.
Palmer will have a heart attack because I didn't give because I didn't do it for him. I'm gonna have a quick look at his notes here. Go with no FC if down to 10 men. Okay, so we go with no FC. So that'll be Rossini off for Frey, and Frey goes in goal, and then we'll see what happens. So this is
Wow.
the pre-match instruction that he's provided, and I can see he's confirmed that in the chat, so that's fine. Ian, now's your chance for you and your strikers to get something. Um, if this is another, was it Ardsley or Phoenix? Who was it? He lost 4-2. Was it Ardsley at the first? He lost 4-2 in the first game.
Yeah, with two red cards as well.
Yeah. Okay. So who? I kind of wish that people would pick better substitutes. To be fair, but we'll see. I think is this? No, they're all defenders. Dyer can do that, can't he? But we haven't got a central midfielder. Okay.
Danielson?
No, I'm just gonna put this guy in. Cordoba. I'm sure he can play pretty much everywhere. It'll be fine. He's 11 against 10. It'll be fine. His strikers still haven't scored. I would like to point that out. That is, he scores, but there's less easy.
That's a defender.
Let's have a quick look. Yeah. What can we say really? BTEX had 5 shots, 5 on target, 2 goals. Charlie doesn't have a goalkeeper or a striker.
I think the lack of striker is going to affect any chance of getting back into it. But if ever there was a chance now for either side to prove a point, whether it's the Cannons going to come back into this and prove that they are on that different level to everyone else, or BTEC, this is going to be the kickstart they need to make that charge for the top 6. It's going to be a very interesting second half of what happens.
Let's see what Cannons have had to. I mean, we can't really. It's difficult. You don't want to criticize that Kutuzov getting a 5 because he's kind of left there by himself. Mendes da Silva getting an 8. I like him in the game. He's a good player in the game. But it's tricky for them when they're in this position. How do you see the second half going? I can see Ian wants Dyer back or Akahova on. That's a little bit too late, but I can make that change. But then you're missing out on a. No, I'm not going to make it because then he's going to miss out on a central defender if he gets an injury later. I'm gonna stick with my guns here. How do you see the second half going? More goals for BTEC or?
Yeah, given that there is no striker for the opposition, BTEC should go on and get another couple, I think.
we'll see what happens. Maybe his strikers will get a goal. You never know. I mean, Danielson is certainly doing his best, I think, to try and create something.
Nice one.
That is one. Danielson continued to put the pressure on. And there's Pizarro with a goal, finally. And that's his debut. I mean, that's the first we've seen Pizarro. He was a top scorer, I think, or one of the top scorers last season. Chudley's not giving up.
This is the goal fest everyone's been waiting for.
Maybe he could still get a draw.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, Pitek holds on. Pitek holds on. I can see him going, not now, Martin, when I suggested doing the substitution again. I was thinking, oh, you don't want another attacking player on now that you're under pressure. That's fine. We'll stick with this then. That got a little bit exciting in the end.
I was just saying that's when the delay works a treat, because you can see them all panicking in the comments that you're going to do something rogue.
That's true. What is it with BTEC and playing against 10 men? They don't like it.
It's what we said earlier, when it can be difficult, and you saw Valen do it professionally. BTEC clearly can't do it professionally, and they've just about got away with it, because I think Cannons will be disappointed they've not come away with a point, to be fair, looking at them stats and how they performed second half.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly did a lot better in the second half. Quite a big turnaround. Surprising to see, actually, considering how few changes are made at halftime. But maybe bringing on Cordoba didn't work out particularly well. I can see in hindsight, I think Ian suggested that we should have put Dyer down there and put Aga Hauer on, I think, instead in that central midfield role. Could have done that as well, actually. I'll make a note of that for next time, perhaps. Pizarro got a goal, Inzaghi 2 assists. He's got to be happy with it, but it's on a bit of a cheap background, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how much you can read into it when there is a red card and you're not facing up 11v11. But I think to get any sort of win against the Cannons, they're going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, I mean they'll take it, and I mean they were another one of the sides that were on 3 points, along with Balin and Hoddesdon, who are now on 6. So they'll be delighted with that. But perhaps a little bit concerning that they're still conceding 2 goals in the second half, down to 10 men. If you look at Chudley, I mean, we all know, and I think can all vouch for the ones who have tried it, that this is a strong tactic, yeah, and it can work without a striker, as well as we've seen here. Timmy's obviously tested it. Lots of players doing well, a few players doing perhaps not so well, but under the circumstances, I think he can probably be happy with that.
I think he'd be pleased with the more attacking players. Like I say, there was no forward up there as a focal point. So there's certainly plenty there. And he knows this tactic, he knows this formation, he knows the players. So I don't think he'll be too disappointed. I think the biggest disappointment is that he's lost his unbeaten record now. He would have liked that to gone on a bit longer. But ultimately, not too surprised when you play, 90 minutes with 10 men.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is effectively 90 minutes. And this is the first action of the game. Inzaghi was fouled in the penalty area, going past Westerveld. I'm sure Inzaghi has not won that many penalties in that fashion in his life. So that's quite accurate for a real life conversion, if you can call it that. So perhaps a little bit unlucky with a red card so early on. We've seen that really had a big impact so far this season. What do you think I mean, this is unusual. This is a Super League thing, I think. This kind of like a ton of keepers getting sent off. Is it because the strikers are better? Is there a tactical thing in it, some kind of run with ball thing, or is it just the quality of the strikers? Why do you think there are so many? Because we've seen a lot of keepers getting sent off, more than you would see in expecting a normal save, I think.
I think it's both. I think everyone will be setting them up to do certain things. You say the strikers are better, but so are the goalkeepers, and so are the defenders. So the fact that they're getting into those positions, and you probably notice it more because you're watching every game and not just one. I think it's a mix of all of those things as to why we're seeing so many, but it certainly adds to the drama and entertainment of it all.
certainly does, and I mean, game changers, really. Okay, so that leaves us with just one game of the evening, the one that we've all. Sorry to keep you up, Alf. I saw your comment earlier, but I made the executive decision of leaving this one till the end. Um, this tactic seems familiar. Is there maybe a team in Wales that goes with something very similar?
Yeah, and that worries me seeing how they played earlier. But what I thought was, when you see Alf, I imagined was going to keep what has done him so well. So I've got my four main central ones there to match up with the fifth man in there as a body. And then I saw what happened with the wingers last time out against Hoddesdon, so I decided to keep two wingers in there, but just slightly further back to offer a bit more stability.
Hmm. I mean, if you've got the players for it, I mean, I would say maybe they would look. I'm not so sure if they're better because the defensive midfield, but they're certainly maybe on par with what Dragons had put out. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. I mean, Dragons had reasonable success against the Hooligans with a similar super narrow formation. If they could have converted a couple of chances, hopefully for you with Clover and Madeira, they will be able to convert them. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure you're all very excited to find out. Um, let's have a look at Alf's formation. I don't know if anyone can guess it. So this is just me checking that he doesn't have any sneaky instructions. As you can see, no fat circles. It looks very similar to what he always puts out.
Yeah, and that's reassuring. Obviously, I came with Cropper last week by assuming that someone would keep their usual tactic, and they didn't. So it was obviously a gamble, but thankfully it's paid off this time, and hopefully we'll get the performance and result to back that up.
Hmm. Yeah, well, we'll see. The only change I think is swapping Nesta and Babel. I can't tell from my I think they might not be swapped. If you can bear with me for 1 second, I will just double check if that's how they're meant to line up because I think they should be the other way around. But I'll double check that for the instruction. Maybe this is the one that's missing out of everyone. We saved that till the end. Um, yeah,
I can
Babel.
see questioning Ekiog's position in the tactics, and there is a specific reason I've kept him in there.
Hmm.
And I know there'll be calls of hypocrisy, but that's fine. That's what we're here to do, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's physical and defensive attributes. That's why I've kept him as the fifth man as opposed to say Gilberto Silva.
Mm. Fair point. Alf says the lineup is okay. I think that those two should swap according to the instructions, but we're keeping them like this. Either way, let's kick it off. We've been waiting long enough for this one. I've kept you waiting for long enough. You've been very patient. So let's see if the only remaining team with 100% record can maintain that, or if you are going to provide an upset here. Um, Important to get an early goal, I think, if you're going to get something against Alf. Oh, there's an early injury to.
That's helpful because he's been in good form early season.
Yeah, he's a top scorer in the league, isn't he? Or one of them anyway. I mean, Ortega is obviously the like for like replacement there, so that's fairly straightforward. You've not created a lot so far, Stephen. I have to tell you, but we'll see. We'll see. It could definitely pick up. You're also not behind, so let's see how the rest of the half pans out. Oh, there was a chance actually. Luke with a shot. A little bit better from Swindon now, but I think Astor's still in control. And that was Lee Boyer from midfield with the first goal of the game. And Brooking following up with the second. I questioned Brooking last week, but he's definitely coming good this week. Unfortunately for you.
Tim losing hasn't helped me here.
No.
No.
That's 3-0 at halftime. I guess the tactical experiment is not paying off so far. It's fair to say.
Nothing is paying off. To be fair, everything is going completely against the way I wanted it to go. It's food for thought for next week.
It's one of those fast forward. I was going to say you've got anyone scoring a 5 can get subbed at halftime, but there aren't any scoring a 5, surprisingly, perhaps. But so we'll keep them on. Alf side standard for them, I guess. 8s and 9s. I mean, if it's any consolation, then this is apart from Hoddesdon scoring a bunch of goals against them, then performance-wise, this is what we've seen from everyone against Alf's side so far this season. So that's
What's depressing is they've got 3 and their main striker is getting a 6.
Yes, that is perhaps a little bit depressing is perhaps the wrong word, but it's not encouraging for the second half. That's what I'm gonna say. But we'll see what happens in the second half. I mean, you could get a consolation perhaps. I mean, yeah, you still have quality, and you got consolation goals or goals in the second half last week. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not looking.
This score.
Hit the woodwork. I'm trying to find positive, Steven. I'm trying.
It's possibly the least positive out of all of them.
Yeah, and that was Babel with a goal, and it's sustained pressure for Master Athletic, to be honest. Yeah, that's they. I don't think it's going to get much better than hitting the woodwork. I'm afraid. That's not gone particularly well. I'll be honest. That's a dominating performance from the visitors, and they're the visitors as well.
That's quite possibly the worst performance from any team in Super League history, to be fair.
I think Alf had more shots actually last week against Hoddesdon, but they then had a few in return. To be honest, 3 shots, none of them on target. That's yes. I think there's a drawing board somewhere that's calling your name before the next game, because this was not what you'd hope for, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I came into it really hoping that they'd lose 4-0.
Taribo West getting an 8. Deisler, it's a little bit strange, because when you look at the stats, 3 goals, none of them on target, and you've got a bunch of 7s and an 8. Fair enough. There's Deisler, who stood out as a poor performer with his low pass completion. Ehiok perhaps as well, but the rest of them, I mean, it doesn't look as if they played terribly. They've just not done anything really.
I'm struggling even seeing 8s and 7s to see anything that resembles a positive. It's just terrible what you've seen there.
I'm still going to go with Taribo West as having actually put in a credible performance. He's done quite a few tackles, but this matchup in formations was not a successful experiment. Del Piero had 7 shots on target. He got 2 assists in the end. Brooking with 2 goals. Surprised he didn't get any assists actually from that attacking midfield role. Yeah, it's back to the drawing board definitely. But Alf is going to be delighted with it, isn't he? Let's have a look at the table. Alf sits at top. 4 games, 4 victories, 16 goals for, 5 against. Early favorite for the regular season title, do you think?
You can't argue. We're 4 from 4, to be fair, and each performance has shown something different. You've had dominant displays like that. You've had Stackington type displays. You've had the Goal Fest last week. It seems that he can't do anything wrong.
It certainly would appear that way. If we look at the teams that are following just behind, so Kieran is, I mean, flying under the radar is not the way to put it when you're second in the league. But if you look at his goal difference, 8-4 and only 1 against, he's got to be pleased with that as well. And that second place, that could also be quite telling for how his season's going to pan out.
Yeah, and we mentioned a few times about defence is seemingly being better, with the exception of mine, clearly, this year. And you look at they've conceded one. Then you've got Midlothian have only conceded three. Even
Mhm.
outside the playoffs, there, Valen only conceded four.
Mhm.
That they're all averaging a goal a game or less, which you see then Hooligans in sixth have conceded 11 and Palmer's conceded nine. That clearly certain teams only have an attack and certain teams only have a defense. And then you look at the teams at the bottom, like me and Sloths, and we have neither.
We're struggling to get points, to get goals on the board and points as well. I mean, that's obviously something for both of you guys to look at tactics wise going into the next week. Looking at your, or we can have a look at it for the fixtures in general. So this will be next week. So you are at home to someone with quite a strong defense, which is perhaps not what you would have wanted, but at least it's a home game. Um,
Hmm. I mean, obviously, what you want when you can't score goals is coming up against a team that doesn't concede goals. So, yeah, I'm very confident that we're going to absolutely batter them.
Well, I mean, it would be very champ manager if you actually did, and they have lost this season. If that's that should be some kind of consolation anyway. So you're not up against an unbeaten Alf side next week. Sloths take on Dragon Destroyers. I mean, it's unfortunate for Jamie that he's away again. Sloths. I mean, this could be 0-0 to be honest. Would be my initial prediction, but there could be goals in it again. Um,
For me, that's where Sloths get their first point of the season.
And do you think it'll be a 0-0, or do you think there'll be goals?
Early doors, I'll say 0-0. But I do believe they will get their first
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 point
point now.
on the board. We've got to go with Chudley Cannons against Asta Athletic for game of the week for the neutral top table clash. Chudley will be desperate to not lose ground on Alf, and he can pick up those 3 points that he lost here with a win. Um, that's going to be an interesting one to see if anyone can break down the super narrow of previous Stackington and now Astor Athletic.
Yeah, especially when you consider Aston now without their main striker, Cannons without their keeper, could make it interesting. But there's a few good games. Val and Ardsley has the potential to be a really good game, as does Franchise Hornets versus Palmers. That could be a decent game as well. Not
Hmm.
ruling out BPEC and Bolton. That could also be a very good game.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely potential in all of them. Hooligans against Miss Lothian is going to be interesting. I think interesting to see how they will fare against the attacking force in Brazil when the Scots travel there. I mean we praised them earlier, but they've only had 3 home games that they've won. Their away game wasn't a success at all. I think we lost the first one to perhaps Churchtown. Either way, I forget these things. It's not my forte to remember this stuff. But certainly a couple of good games to look forward to. Um, what do you think will be game of the week? Are we going to go with Chudley Cannons, or where do you think we should look, or should we look at the franchise against Palmouth and Icos?
Um, it depends what you're looking for. In terms of the best technical game, then yes, Cannons Asta is the one. And if you're looking for which one will have the most goals, BTEX Bolton, I think, will be the one.
Hmm. It'll be worth a watch, definitely. Um, I think on that note, we'll wrap it up for this evening. We've done our usual hour and a half, so I think that's more than enough. As usual, thank you very much, Stephen, for your feedback. I'm sorry that I thought maybe we'd broken the commentator's curse with Timmy getting the win, but apparently we're back in curse territory. But thank you very much for your time and your input as usual. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me on. Good night, everyone.
And to everyone else out there, thank you very much for listening. As usual, the packs will be out after the midweek show. If there's any spoilers or anything interesting, then I will perhaps drop a few hints on that. But if not, then I will see you or speak to you all or hear from you all again during the week in the review show. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Good night.